Hi, my name is Amber Hauser. Now, we've all heard those stories. The ones about mysterious things happening with no explanation. The stories that are usually classified as ghost stories. Those are the ones you hear around the campfire at night, and the ones that keep you up until midnight for every night remaining on the camping trip. Those are stories you hear and think, that's impossible. It can never happen. And for the most part, you'd be right. Those stories are proved false all the time, or else no one can prove them to be true, so they're left as undecided. But what if one of them was true? Now, I know you must be expecting some gruesome story about how someone was murdered and left hanging in a forest, found days later. Or maybe you're expecting some stupid story with a really obvious ending. But neither of those guesses would be right. There is a death in this story, but it wasn't gruesome, and if anything, actually gave the family hope, if only for a little while. It wasn't that long ago, actually. September 22nd, 2008, in San Fernando Valley in California. Charles Peck was one of 225 passengers on a commuter train when the train collided with a freight train going on the same track in what came to be called the Chatsworth crash. And that's where the story gets a little bit odd. Over the course of 11 hours, Charles Peck phone placed a total of 35 calls to loved ones. Among those who received calls were his son, brother, sister, his stepmother, and fiance. When they answered the calls, all they heard was static on the line, and when they tried to call back, well, it went straight to voicemail. But nonetheless, it gave them hope that Charles was still alive and buried somewhere under the wreckage. All these calls spurred more of an investigation for Charles' body under the wreckage. Investigators traced his phone and found his body. He was already dead. It's a simple enough story, right? Nothing weird at all. Except that Charles had died instantly during the crash. Stranger than that, according to investigators, his cell phone was never found. Now, something that was found out later gives the story a cruel twist, revealing that reality has a really sick sense of irony. A cell phone, the same thing that led investigators to find Charles' body, may have been the same thing that had caused the crash in the first place. Investigators realized that the engineer either hadn't noticed or had completely ignored a red signal light and directed the train onto the track where the freight train was coming in the opposite direction. They later found out that he had been texting just before the crash. Some teens revealed that they had been exchanging text messages with the engineer, and the last text message they received had been 22 seconds before the collision. I chose to tell you this legend because everyone loves a good mystery, right? You hear a lot of legends all the time, and most of them turn out to be fake. Especially a lot of the ghost stories, and all the things that happen without any explanation. Though to me, those are the most interesting ones, and the ones that make you think and wonder if something like that could ever happen, even though you know it probably couldn't. But the reason I chose to tell you this story, instead of one of the others, is because this one is completely and 100% true. Because maybe, just sometimes, things can happen without explanation.